second episode of our initiative called Meet the Attendees. Today we are having Anoop Nannra from Trugard with us, and stay tuned for a valuable lesson in security. Welcome to the second interview of our series Meet the Attendees. We have Anoop from Trugard with us, and let's dive right into it. Anoop, please let us know what you are doing at Trugard and how did you end up in this crypto space.
Excellent. Yeah, happy to answer that. It's been a very interesting journey. I started in the blockchain space in 2015, leading the blockchain business at Cisco Systems, the world's largest internet company. Um, we developed a thesis that since 68% of the world's internet already traverses over Cisco equipment, by definition, every blockchain transaction, every Bitcoin transaction touches a Cisco device at one point or another. And we said that blockchain is fundamentally a networking technology, and as such, who better to innovate in this space than the world's largest networking company? So we built a fascinating layer one. We deployed 1,000 nodes around the world. We were tracking 350 million physical objects in real time using that network. We were able to seize gray market and counterfeit products before they got to our customers, right? And that was an amazing story to tell. While I was there, I launched the world's first blockchain and IoT industry group, co-founded and chaired that with a lot of amazing blockchain and IoT startups and companies and innovators. We did some amazing work like our smart mobility challenge, where we Bosch gave us an electric Jaguar. We blockchain enabled it, and we drove it from Barcelona to Berlin, charged, parked, and shored, using crypto and digital assets. I also helped start the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance in 2016, when five of us circled Vitalik at the lobby of the Hyatt in Shanghai at DevCon 2 and said, "You need to think about an enterprise perspective on Ethereum." And he said, "Yep." And that was it. That was the start of Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. I left Cisco, went to AWS to lead the blockchain partner business. Had a lot of fun there. Helped build some amazing solutions, worked with amazing partners. But all the while, in my journey, I've been a bit of a critic of like the lack of proper cybersecurity and threat intelligence, and how do we bring safety and awareness to users in our space. So in early 2022, I left AWS, gave my co-founder a call, and I said, "Hey, like, let's compare notes." A couple of months later, we started Trugard, and basically what we've built to date is, as I would describe it, is the Google search engine of smart contract risk and intelligence. So we're not an audit firm. We don't do transaction monitoring. We are laser focused on finding as many signals from a cybersecurity perspective in smart contracts as possible. And then we make all of those signals available to developers, investors, institutions, to make smarter decisions on their own journey in the digital asset space, right? So if you're looking to invest in a new asset class, or in that new NFT project or a new token, or you're being asked to list a new token, or custody a certain digital asset, how do you accelerate the due diligence in that process? How do you identify whether or not the contract that was used to create these assets is actually a good and healthy contract? Or if the contract that you're looking at is good, but the deployer has a history of deploying suspicious contracts, do you still want to onboard or invest in that asset class? So we look for those signals across 7 networks today. We have onboarded roughly 21 million smart contracts. We have identified over 1 million contracts that are actively malicious, to varying degrees. Some will simply destroy assets, while others will steal all the assets in your wallet. And we make all that information available through a very simple but powerful API that is powered by our platform. We have built a detection suite that includes thousands of detectors. And we run each and every contract that we onboard through that suite to make sure that we have the broadest coverage from discoverability of signals as possible. The platform is designed in a way where we basically are continually listening for new block announcements. As we receive a new block announcement, we inspect the block, we search for contract deployments. If there's a contract deployed in there, we then grab the contract, we dissect it, we go down to the assembly level. If there's source code available, we will go and fetch that to also, improve the discoverability of signals. And we look at multifaceted ways of uncovering signals within the contracts. We have a lot of great features that are coming in the next couple of weeks that I think are going to be very powerful for not just developers and researchers, but investors across the board, retail or institutional. And so that's kind of how I got into this space and kind of what we've built to date. Super excited to be part of this community, and really looking forward to advocating for safety and security and building confidence in digital asset users so that us, our partners, can actually help on board the next 4.5 billion people into this space.
That's amazing. I'm baffled by the amount of work you have put into this space into the crypto space. But you were so early. You were a pioneer in many areas so far as you already told us. I'm amazed by that and congrats for you. And also, I suppose I should be thanking you from the community for doing the heavy duty part because obviously security is not for everyone, and I'm sure many viewers will will agree with this. But I would love to ask you because it's a lot of information. Obviously, not anyone knows a lot of
Mhm.
about the security part of things. Yeah,
Yeah.
the NFTs are flash and they're nice and all that. But I know there are smart people like you that do the heavy lifting and actually make sure that not many people or less and less people are losing their funds, I suppose. So could you help us to dissect what would be the most common challenges of Web3 security? What did you face in your past so far? So, or what would you say tell anybody as a crash course on how to protect you and obviously your project, your business, or whatever?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But and first of all, it's not just me. I have an amazing team, right? Some of the most brilliant people I've ever worked with, people who are 10 times smarter than me. My job is simply to remove boulders and roadblocks.
Heavy duty,
But
as I said.
right, but fundamentally, one of the things that we find, and this is a pretty common statistic across the networks that we support, is one, there are new developers who are coming onto this space all the time. And they're so excited about building their new dApp, deploying their first smart contract, um, that we're seeing the same mistakes being made over and over and over again, right? So everyone who's been in this space long enough will remember the DAO, and the $50 million that was siphoned off, not because someone did something illegal or discovered an exploit, but because there was no reentrancy protection within the contract, right? And in fact, that specification came later, right? And so now there is reentrancy protection that you can put in place in a smart contract that basically forces a wallet to go to the back of the line once they've executed the transaction. Um, we're seeing smart contracts being deployed today on some networks by the hundreds and some networks by the thousands with no reentrancy protection. And so I feel like there is still work that needs to be done in helping better educate developers to understand with a cybersecurity mindset the kinds of risk that can be uh, 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 essentially deployed when they deploy their smart contracts, right? So that's pretty common, we find. And it's kind of alarming, in fact, just the volume of contracts that we're seeing with no reentrancy protection. So that's one. The second that we see as a signal, and it may or may not pass an audit, is we're seeing downstream libraries increasingly being modified, right? So top level, the contract looks great. It might pass an audit, but the libraries that it's calling, and the most famous one is probably the Safe Math library.
Okay.
We're seeing that the downstream libraries have been tampered with. So it's kind of like a security vulnerability that's hiding. And on a cursory view, if you were to go into one of the scanners and you look at, if there is source code available, that's one. If there is source code available, you look at the source code under a verified contract tab and in any of the scanners, the contract might look clean, but the downstream libraries are tampered with. And so we're seeing increasingly bad actors trying to hide malicious signals by not running it at the top level and burying it deep. In other instances, we're seeing smart contracts that are huge, absolutely huge, right? Yet they compile down to be very, very small.
Okay.
And so from a not even a Web3 security perspective, even the classic internet Web2 security perspective, that's known as obfuscation, right? You're burying a malicious function or a signal in a massive body of code, hoping that someone will just skip over it and not read it, not discover it,
Right.
right? And so we're finding a lot of these as well. And for us, that's a very sharp signal, because why is a contract that has thousands of lines of code compiled down to tens or maybe hundreds of kilobytes, right?
Right.
Um, you know, it could be a very poorly written smart contract. Yes, I agree, but also at the same time, that could be an obfuscation attack vector, right? Also, I find this notion of do your own research is not good enough. It's not good enough. And a lot of folks will people who are pushing tokens or advocating for tokens or other projects in our space will say, hey, do your own research, make sure you understand the technology, make sure you understand the risk. But the average person does not understand a smart contract. The average person does not understand the technology of blockchain, right? And so there's a steep learning curve, at which point I would argue that many folks who are jumping into this space are said, I think I've read enough. I think I understand enough. I'm now ready to put 10, 20, $30,000 into this new asset class, when in fact, they haven't really scratched the surface. So this whole notion of do your own research, I find, is a bit misleading. And I think it behooves us as technologists, as innovators in the Web3 space, to really help and aid the discoverability of risk and understanding of what those risks are, right? And so I would love to see better education programs, and in fact, that's something we're working with a number of our partners on, to actually highlight the potential risks. What should people look out for? And we're actually building a Web3 security coalition, of trusted, highly vetted partners that are all united by the singular mission of improving confidence and safety and advocating for users. And by doing this, we're confident that the next 4.5 billion users will start their journey in digital assets. But this coalition is really designed to help people understand and discover whether or not a project is legitimate, whether or not the tooling and the technology that the project is built on is safe and secure. And for those that they choose for whatever reason to ignore the recommendations, and there are a variety of reasons why that's still happening, both good and bad. But in some cases, we're seeing assets being stolen, and despite the recommendations that this coalition might put in place. And so in those scenarios, we've got an amazing partner that is the world's best in asset recovery and investigations. And so we said, let's, no one company should take this challenge on their own. Let's build a coalition of companies that are advocating for users on safety and security, and put in place the natural handoff for users as they work across our ecosystem, so that we have them covered from discovery to recovery. Right? How do you discover good projects? How do you validate and confirm to yourself that these are in fact good projects, both from a community perspective as well as from a technical perspective, and then on the investigations and asset recovery side, so that when when people do regret ignoring some of that advice and recommendations that our platforms are providing, we've got a mechanism that can help them recover assets.
I see. So as always, it all boils down to education because obviously it's the pinnacle of humanity. But
Absolutely.
I'm glad to hear about your initiative and your partners. That's really, really cool, and I hope it will be also really helpful for the whole crypto ecosystem. I know we lack education, and for instance, I am a marketing guy and a product designer guy as a base job, and as I started in the crypto, and obviously for me, the most common problems, yes, I am aware of how to maybe shield myself, but if
Mhm.
I were to be put into a perspective of building an app for myself from scratch, because I have some programming experience behind, I will probably get lost, and for sure some of the code will be faulty, at best faulty. But something that you said caught my eye and wanted to ask you further details. You said about code being too long and obfuscated, and you could hide malicious content there. Is there a possibility that some of those projects will be able to bypass audits and such services so they end up to the end users?
Absolutely. And so this is another interesting statistic that we have since validated and confirmed, is that across the entire blockchain industry, all protocols, all networks of every flavor, whether it's Solana or EVM, or the new Bitcoin L2 ecosystem that is starting to emerge, and TON,
Mm.
less than 1% of smart contracts deployed have source code available to review.
Oh, damn.
Those, maybe 15-20% have an audit report.
I see.
Right? And so there are in fact projects that are seeing transaction volume where there's no source code to review. Nobody actually knows what the contracts are actually doing.
I see.
Right? Yet there's excitement. There's sometimes there's celebrities involved, and so that encourages the excitement. But the risk is very much there.
It's
Right?
flashy. It's flashy
It's
for people.
flashy, and people want to be a part of it, and that's awesome. I get that. I fully understand it. We are all human.
Yeah.
But the risk is very much there. Right? And so for us, for our own analysis, and kind of the detection suite that we've built, yeah, if there's source code available, we have a very sophisticated machine suite of machine learning algorithms that will go and inspect source code. But we're not dependent on source code. Like, we will actually operate, or well, we do actually operate at the bytecode and assembly level of the contracts. So if there's an ABI, right, all contracts are deployed as ABIs on Ethereum, at least, right? We will go grab the ABI file. We will rip it apart. We will break it down to the opcode assembly level, and we perform our machine learning analysis on that. We are coming out with some very interesting capabilities that we will again make it all available to users of our platform, where we're going to be identifying dead branches of code,
I
right?
see.
Not at the source code level, but at the bytecode level, right? So, as a researcher or someone who's trying to understand risk of a contract, you don't need to see the source code anymore, because we will surface to you, the functions that are executing 99% of the time within a contract, but then also flag the functions that only execute less than 1% of the time. So that's a signal. Why is this particular branch of code being executed so infrequently? Is it malicious?
I
Right?
see.
And that's kind of the level of detail that we're getting to next in our platform.
So you're somehow venturing into the patterns of even the code execution. Cool.
Correct.
I
Correct.
see.
You have to.
I
You
see.
have to. I mean, there's simply no choice. In to do this well and properly in this space, uh, you have to do that.
I see. And I wanted to follow up to my last question about your website states that it's Trugard's website. I mean, states that it's real-time Web3 intelligence and
Mhm.
security. How do you accomplish identifying and mitigating risks in real life, both
Yeah. So
transactions or and smart contracts, obviously?
yeah. So just to reiterate, we do not do transaction monitoring, right? We're just laser focused on finding signals in smart contracts as fast as machinely possible, not even humanly possible, machinely possible. Um, So in our platform, we have a very sophisticated ETL, extract, transform, load function, where we sit and listen for block announcements for the networks that we support. For every block that is announced, we immediately go and retrieve that. We rip the block apart. We look for smart contract deployments, and then if there is a smart contract deployment, we will then go grab the smart contract from the block, rip it apart, pass it through our detection suite, and then within seconds we have insights, right? So within, let's say, between uh, 5 to 10 seconds of a contract going live, we have signals of risk for it.
Cool. That's
So
that's
on
fast.
some networks, that is as short as 2 to 3 blocks. So arguably, we're generating signals of potential smart contract risk before the first legitimate transaction has a chance to go through.
I understand. So basically, if I want to come and make sure that whatever I'm trying to build or use or whatever, as a user or as a builder, I want to
Mhm.
check if it's malicious. I could just come to TrueGuard and check it very, very fast and quick to see how it behaves in terms of security. That's
Yes, exactly that. And so, we index all of this, right? And so, it's one thing. Obviously, we're keeping up with head, right? But people will use our platform at any random time, and so, we're very transparent about how we do this. We also timestamp our discovery
I see.
time, right? And we have full revisions of what is the current version of detection. And so, we said it's good to provide signals. It's even better to basically provide as much information, metadata around those signals as possible as well. So we make that available too.
I see. So basically, you're an aggregator of everything that's malicious on the crypto as much as possible, obviously, and you're on your supported chains. Cool.
Correct. Correct.
I would love to ask you about uh, success example from Trugard, and obviously, if you can share it with us, like some specific problem that you encountered and came up with a solution, or signal it real fast, something like spicy, let's say.
Oh yes, yes, yes. So we this is a great it's a great discovery. So my co-founder and CTO, who is a prolific crypto cyber researcher, um, he so we ran a bit of a discovery, just trying to understand and explore signals within our platform, right? It's fully automated. We don't actually handhold or touch any contracts, right? It's all done machine, it's fully automated, machine learning, AI, all the buzzwords. um but we discovered a collection of malicious signals that were out in the wild. And I asked the team, I said, what does our platform say about these signals, right? And and so when we first got wind of these signals, they were identified in like two or three different contracts, smart contracts on Ethereum. And interesting, but could there be more? And so the way that we've designed our platform is you can actually give us the smart contract address, or you can give us the wallet address of the deployer, and whatever the deployer is deployed or contracts, we'll provide you the information. But we've designed it in such a way that if you know what the signal looks like, what the risk looks like, or the indicator of compromise looks like, you can search by that and we'll tell you which contracts it's in and on what networks. And so we found these signals out in the wild, and I asked the team, I said, can you see what our platform says about this? So they searched, and within 200 milliseconds, we built a list of over 60 smart contracts deployed across 5 networks, where if you were to look at these contracts individually, you would say, okay, it's a risky contract, move on. But when you look at it as a collection and you look at the deployment history of these contracts, we discovered that it's actually a campaign of malicious contract deployments. And we've since kind of validated that with one of our partners, FIO, who, when they went digging, they realized that this is actually a honeypot campaign that has been active for over a year, completely uncontested, with contracts deployed as recently as 3 weeks ago.
Damn.
And so, again, like, the exploits in this space don't have to be large. They don't have to be going after tens or 20 or hundreds of millions of dollars. This could be a death by 1,000 cuts, right? And that's the kind of thing that we're starting to highlight and uncover, is these campaigns of malicious contract deployments that are very clearly organized by bad actors to basically steal or siphon tens, hundreds, or even just thousands of dollars at a time, right? And so that is something that we're very proud of, that we've built into the platform. And again, we make this available for any security researcher, any analyst, any fund manager who's looking to place positions, to also engage in that kind of research and insight discovery.
That's a pretty cool story. I wasn't expecting this kind of story, but it's fun, and it's even funnier for me because obviously some years ago I did caught a honeypot when I was young in the crypto space. I suppose everybody at least interacted with one and or saw some examples of it. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was an amazing story, and I'm glad to hear that you did a lot of progress into that direction. I would love to ask you about your Explorer because I was also watching the Explorer meanwhile. Do you
Mhm.
intend to develop on it or maybe make it simpler for maybe end users, not developers or security experts, to have some sort of, let's say, database of the bigger contracts, the bigger projects at least, or something like that?
Yeah. So the Explorer that we built, is really meant to kind of whet the appetite, right? Like, provide some very simple mechanism to discover, risk, and understand, the data set that is a party to identifying risk. But it's fundamentally powered entirely by our platform and the API. And so not everything is available. Just from a user experience perspective, I mean, a lot of people just frankly still don't understand what 4 byte signatures are, right? in this space. And that's not a knock on anyone. I mean, this is a very sophisticated, complicated space to understand, right? And so we've done our best to really simplify and present, what can be quickly understood. But the real power is when users go to our developer portal. We've got great documentation there. People can go in and create an account, create an API key, and for free, they can do 50 API calls a day, 500 a month. So as they're learning, as they're researching, exploring, they can fine tune their use cases. And when they're ready, they can self-serve and sign up for a subscription depending on the volume of calls that they expect to make on a monthly or annual basis. Um, and so, that's when you can come up with very interesting queries. It's a fully GraphQL based API. So you can ask for as much or as little information as you want. We've got some very sophisticated filtering mechanisms that are going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. So if you only want high risk contracts deployed by a certain wallet in a certain category of risk, we'll serve you just that. If you want all contracts that have been deployed by a particular wallet and just want to know the categories of risk that those contracts fit into, we'll serve you just that, right? And so, from an end user's perspective, we're allowing people to really truly customize their experience, and then fine tune exactly what they're looking for, fit that into their use case, and embed the data as needed. We're also very seriously considering open sourcing our web app. So it's a simple dashboard, and people can augment and enrich it as needed. Of course, it's entirely powered by our API, but we're considering that as well, and allowing the community to add all kinds of other features to it as they get supported in our API.
I see. Why I asked you this is that I ventured around the portal from Certic. The guys from Certic made a similar portal that with my idea. It's called Skynet, and they have just an overall structure about security if they have audits, KYC people,
Sure.
team members, and whatnot. And that's why I wanted to ask you about this because I would assume, obviously, dev-wise, it would be a mess. It's gonna require a lot of manpower there, but I would assume that you, as going into more in depth than an audit, would
Mhm.
maybe benefit the community overall. So that's why I wanted to put this problem up. Maybe that's some task for somebody else to implement eventually.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there are certain things. I mean, we're a very small team, right? I mean, we're powered by technology. But we've assembled this Explorer, and we're continuously collecting feedback on it, right? And so one of the questions that we've gotten quite often recently is, hey, I'd love to just take your Explorer and embed it in my dashboard, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's definitely possible. I mean, it's a very simple very simple web app, and allowing a community to improve upon it and develop it and shape it the way that they want. I think is a valuable contribution, one of the valuable contributions that we can make to this space. But yeah, we're always looking for feedback. We're always looking for input. Are there things that we should be highlighting more or less? Um, yeah, and I mean, I think that's all part of the journey that we're all on, right? It's how do we help each other better understand the risks, and how do we communicate those more effectively? How do we aid in discoverability? And our Explore is kind of a first attempt at that, but I expect that to fully evolve as we get more articulate as an industry as a whole.
I see. I'm terrifically happy. I really am happy to hear this because I suppose collaboration will always push us forward as society, as a crypto space, as whatever. So I'm really
Yeah.
happy that you guys are really, really considering making it open source. Maybe that way people, not you specifically, but the crypto space could push it even further.
Absolutely.
Cool stuff. So far, so good, and I'm really really glad to hear about your path so far. I would love to maybe get under your skin and ask you if you have some future plans, integrations, collaborations, or whatnot that you could share. So maybe some spoilers, something spicy that you haven't released. I'm just
Yeah,
trying.
it's a fair question. It's a fair question. Right now we find ourselves in a unique position that a lot of the protocols are lining up to get us to support them. We're seeing just in terms of like gross market trends that we're seeing right now, right? I mean, obviously, we just had, Bitcoin 2024. We had an amazing consensus. We had, token 2049 in Dubai, and we have the next one in Singapore upcoming. This space is growing up, right? In a good way. We're seeing large institutional investments get ready in this space. Some have already happened. I think we're just beginning.
Yep.
And so the thing that I think is really important is as we grow up, as we turn this space into a collection of networks, into a collection of critical infrastructure, we also need to remember to bring the classic Web 2 companies along that journey so that they can also help protect and grow and defend that critical infrastructure, right? And so all of a sudden, we're seeing the insurance space, classic Web 2 insurance space, pay a lot of attention to this, to Web 3. And as they're doing so, they're looking for guidance on how do they uh, define risk. I mean, the insurance industry is all about, risk mitigation, risk management,
Yep.
right? And so they're looking for better mechanisms to ensure risk, or at least understand the scope and the veracity of risk that exists today and the potential to reduce it in the future. And so all of a sudden we're seeing a lot of protocols, coming our way asking if we can support them. Obviously, we only have so much bandwidth. Right now, I think we only have capacity to support 5 new networks by the end of the year. And we've got about 30 protocols that want us to support their protocols, get listed in our Explorer, get supported in our API, and have signals being surfaced. One of the things that I think every protocol is trying to compete for is sizable investment from institutional investors that are now jumping into digital assets. Which networks are they going to be leveraging? What infrastructure are they going to be building on? And the Fortune 5000, you know, classic, you know, classic companies, Web 2 companies,
Brick and
are going
mortar.
to be looking to understand risk, to mitigate risk against their brand, right? No, my thesis is that no Fortune 5000 company will want to build on a network that is also co-resident with a lot of malicious activity,
Oh, nice.
right? So one, it pays for all of us to really understand this risk, get ahead of it, build tools, which is like what we've done, build tools to help understand it as quickly as possible, work with the protocol teams to help them make better investments or start investments in education, developer training, better cybersecurity posturing overall, so that we can help them, entice what is it, an estimated $10 trillion that is waiting to come into digital assets, right? So there's work to be done, but I think it behooves us all to really understand this space extremely well, and I think we are doing that. So that's kind of the angle, the spicy angle that I'm seeing is there's a lot of opportunity to support the classic Web 2 companies to get them into this space. And when they come into this space, individual retail users, investors will also feel comfortable getting into the space as well. So there's a lot of risk, but there's also a lot of excitement ahead.
It's an amazing story because I was laughing in the background because you hold your horses strong. No spoilers for us, but I keep on hearing, everybody keeps on hearing that's gonna be a bull run of the century and everybody, and it will never be such a big bull run. But your perspective was different. Your perspective, I don't think I've heard your perspective or your thesis in terms of associating Web 2 and Web 3 from the security point of view. I've heard a couple of comparisons that yeah, retail investors are gonna come, but nobody, I haven't heard about anybody talking about the security aspect of it and how that might help and bring us more adoption actually. So
It's
cool.
it's a it is a bit of a unique perspective, and I must admit, back in the day, I was one of the many poster children for enterprise blockchain. I have since been re-educated on private permissioned blockchain networks. While they may serve some utility, it's not going to be good enough,
That's right.
right? And so one, we are looking at smart contract risk, smart contract threat intelligence, what have you. But there's a lot of work, that amazing work, that's been gone on in like zero knowledge proofs, right? And that is addressing one of the key requirements for enterprises, right? Which is, how do you maintain confidentiality and privacy
I
in
see.
a highly dynamic environment, right? That's the third thing, right? It's confidentiality and privacy. I think everyone who's doing zero knowledge proofs understands that. But how do you do that in a highly dynamic environment,
Mm,
right? Where your ecosystem role participants and roles responsibilities may change block for block, given the context of who they're interacting with, right? So there's more work to be done there. But as soon as we solve that in a scalable way, then we kind of remove the barriers for Web 2 companies to get into Web 3, right? I go back to the simple use case, right? Like, how many how many companies have fully moved their entire accounts payable, accounts receivable to a public network in the
I
world?
I don't know of one at least. I don't think
Yeah,
I know one company to name out from the top of my
yeah.
head.
My thesis is the answer is zero, and the reason being is I think, while we've got amazing projects and doing all kinds of amazing, like, helping people, accumulate wealth, we still haven't solved the fundamental problem of how does this technology integrate into the back office of a classical business,
Yeah,
right? And that back office starts and stops at accounts payable, accounts receivable, right?
yeah,
Where, in theory, based on what we all know about blockchain technology, the APAR transaction is a single transaction, right, between two counterparties,
yeah.
which is exactly the blockchain story, right? But we haven't built the infrastructure enough to the point where we can execute that accounting transformation, let alone the digital transformation of the company itself, right? So um, I think as soon as we start, seeing lots of applications like that and platforms, and I know for a fact that there are platforms addressing back office infrastructure so that it can integrate more effectively and efficiently with public networks. As soon as we start seeing, movement there, then all predictions on the top of this bull run, I think, are grossly underestimated.
No, I understand. Again, unique perspective, and I strongly respect it. And I just know how hard it would gonna be because I know from Web 1 to Web 2 how hard it is. And I think many people know the example of the stock market that runs on fucking COBOL. So it's
Yeah.
it's old and people take time to adjust, and probably the crypto space will be the same, but the
Mhm.
security aspect will probably make a huge difference into the coming years for sure. I would love
It's
to wrap this up, so I won't
absolutely
hold you more, but I would love to ask you for one more small question, short question.
sure.
If you would love to let everyone seeing this and a piece of wisdom, what will it be? Anything that you want, a question so they can ponder upon later, or just your perspective on anything from the crypto space. What is that one thing that you want to everybody to know?
I would encourage people to continue to ask why,
I've read the book. I've read the
right?
book. Yep.
Why blockchain? Why digital assets? And this goes beyond, do your own research, right? This is fundamentally answering the question of is the market structure so broken in the way things are today that we can efficiently and quickly convince ourselves that there is a better way, right? And I encourage everybody to continue to ask why. Um, it's look, I am a poster child of this space, just like anybody else. I am fully bought, fully. I'm a full believer. I believe that this technology fundamentally democratizes innovation, right? And when you democratize innovation, you're actually democratizing creation of wealth, right? But I still think we have to ask the question of why this particular use case. Is there actually a need for data sharing? Is there actually a need to have counterparties have real-time visibility into account status and information like that? So I want folks to continue to pressure test, and as they continue to pressure test, I think we're going to come up with even more amazing projects in the future.
It's both baffling but amazing for me that my previous guest said is kind of the same idea, but from a business development perspective, not a technical perspective and security as yours. But
Yeah,
the idea was kind of the same: how to proceed further to ask yourself why are you doing everything that you're doing, crypto, web 2, whatever you're doing in life. So
yeah.
I'm surprised that two different people came to the kind of rather the same conclusion and the end. So that's one piece of
I would love to meet this person.
you will at token 2049, I suppose.
No
I'll
regret.
try to link you two guys.
That would be
Thank you
awesome.
for your time, Anoop. It was a pleasure. It was mind-boggling, and definitely it made me rethink a bit of my strategy going further, and obviously look more into the security aspects because, as I said, marketing guy, design guy, I know how flashy NFTs can be. I know how flashy projects can be. They are amazing, but obviously at the end of the day, there are funds behind anything, so
Yeah,
we should at least consider it. Again, thank you
absolutely.
for your time, and I much
No,
appreciate it.
thanks. Thanks for providing the opportunity. And if anything, my call to action would be, let's improve this space, right? Let's build confidence,
Yep,
and as we do that, it will reward us all.
yep. Wise words. Have a great one. Thank you,
You too.
and see you soon.
Thank you, Andy. Thanks. See you in Singapore.
And that's a wrap. So, what do you say? Is your crypto app secure enough? Do you think that? Let's ask Anoop. And if you want to contact him, please find his contact information down below. And don't forget, let's talk crypto.